C programmer, and then in the networking domain and the Linux-like platforms. And most of the products that I have worked on were the Linux-based hardwares, like the routers or home gateways that we now see very frequently in our homes. But that time those were not so common. And all my career I have worked in product companies. So it's whatever I'm going to share are my experiences, and those are with the product companies. So I have no idea about how the project companies tackle the problems or what challenges they face. And having said that, most of my interaction with the tech writers is in my present company, where I have been working for last almost 10 years now. And we have a very good, fabulous documentation team. So what our product is, I'll just in few minutes I'll cover that. So it's the NetScout's product is like a combination of hardware and software. So hardware is a box that connects to the enterprise network of our customer and passively monitors the network. And the software runs the analytics on it and extracts some useful data about the network and applications running on the network. So that's how the product is, a very technical kind of scenario. The customers are all the IT enterprise companies, and in big enterprises like banks and stock exchanges and health services, hospitals, even service provider, backbone service provider networks, big networks like Vodafone and Airtel or things like that. So they are our customers. And who are the users? The users are mostly the IT department of those companies, the people who know the networks. So our users are themselves very technical, and they know a lot of technical things. So the challenge was to prepare documentation for them, who, like, you can imagine the IT guy in any typical company who loves to work on command line and setting some things, Cisco routers or gateways or whatever. So the documentation team has challenged to create documentation that will be useful for them. Fortunately, when our company is like a 25-year-old company now, the 6 people who started that company, 2 were the owners and the remaining 4 were programmers. But one programmer, after a few years, turned into a QA and then a documenter. And she is still with us today. So she knows everything from how the product evolved, and she has been writing tech notes and online help and documentation, everything for last 25 years. And then the team evolved. The documentation team was under her leadership, and they are also very good. So just to give an example, whenever somebody joins my team in the engineering as a software programmer, the induction is very quick. Like, we spend 2-3 days only with the induction and the work and training process. After that, we ask them to install a product on one of the box that we provide, and ask them to press F1 after that. We just go ahead, and the online help should be good enough to give example, means at least cater to 90% of the queries that you have. So that's the kind of online help our product has, and credit it all to the documentation team and the tech writers. Okay, so this is a little bit of the background and what I am going to share with you. So I'm rank outsider in this group, but that's what I think I am here to tell you about the other side of the coin. Okay, so I have broadly divided the talk into 2 parts. The first part is about the engineering story, about how we work and the challenges in front of us and how we tackle with those, and not so good, not so things that fall in the processes of the software development. And the next part is about the things that I want to share with tech writers or documentation teams. So I think I'll go through the first section, and then we can take questions before going ahead after that. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so the firstly, the company environment. So some of things that I talked about. So the way engineering team works is actually influenced by many things. The first is about the business dynamics. The company evolves and the company has to grow and earn the revenues, and all the business dynamics around the world, they influence the way we develop the products. And the processes are developed now. The software industry has matured and there are well-led processes that people follow. But how much they follow, I don't know about the big project companies, but I know about my company and know a little bit about the Silicon Valley companies. It's not the Silicon Valley companies or even my company in the US. The processes are not as religiously followed as they are. I have seen being followed by into some other companies. That the reason is the business dynamics, the way we want to serve our customers, and the company culture. So our CEO and all the executives started their career as programmers and the Linux networking programmers. So that builds the company culture. So how much they want. Any new process, the example is like 3-4 years ago, our CEO set out to have the agile and scrum processes throughout our company. And he gave a timeline of 2 years. So after 2 years, we should be agile. And it's been 4 years, and I think about 15-20% of the company is agile after 4 years. So that's the company culture. So even what is the reason? Because the executives themselves are the programmers, and they think that hiring talented, good programmers is the key to have good products and development and the quality and standards that we want, not the process. So obviously the process has its place, but it's not as well led as people would have wished for. So the company culture is influencing the environment that we are in. The processes, there are some processes, sometimes they are bent, sometimes they are followed. So in the initial phases, we were the contributors to the network standards, like the Armon 2 or things like that you might have heard. So the company grew in selling products where the network monitoring space was evolving. And after that, the customers started demanding more things, started to spend more money, and the processes slowly started setting up into the same area. So we have the processes, the product management council, and the PRDs are I don't know about how the processes are followed, but PRD is like product requirement document. The customer asks for some big feature, and then somebody from product management or the sales people, they create a product requirement document, very elaborate document, and the development process starts from there. Next functional specification, next design document, next the development and release. So that's the process that we have evolved into, and the politics is minor part in, at least in our environment, but sometimes it plays a bigger part into how we develop and what's the time frame and how it evolves for any product. So from there, I come to the way we work. So this is going to be. I hope that some of the questions that you might have for years, something probably, I'll try to address those. So I just now said the process that we follow. Okay, this is actually my experience from the last big feature that I delivered. Okay, so how it started was that we realized, like me and my manager and the group that works on a certain component of the product, we realized that one component is not scaling up to the customer requirements, and probably in next 2-3 years we will be having some challenges. So what we did was we created a presentation which was about the technical feasibility of the new solution that we want to replace the existing component by. And that technical feasibility presentation we gave to engineering executives, the vice president of engineering, and we got his nod that this is good to go. So now we have some time to develop into it. So we set out to design, review, and even develop. So whatever design, of course, these processes this is limited to engineering, by the way. So because the nod came from engineering executives, we designed, reviewed, developed. So I think almost 75–80% of the development was happening, and the release was coming in which we were thinking to put this feature into. That time, some of the people outside engineering got some visibility that there is something cooking in the engineering. So that time, what was the process? So somebody should have created product requirement document. Now this is not coming from the customer. So, but some of the product managers we had talked to, and they said it's a good idea. So we asked them to create a product requirement document for the features and the design that we actually have already developed. And we announced it. So at this time, most of the company knew that this is the one that is coming into the next release. By the time the release work actually started, this was showing up as one of the components and one of the major components. Our VP engineering said that this should get the exposure as early as possible into QA and everything, testing, So PRD was there, and when we wanted to deliver it to QA to test, QA obviously asked what are the documents, what is that we are supposed to test. So, which is something actually functional specs tells you about detailed specification and all the scenarios and the things that QA would be interested in. So we were creating or started to create that functional specification. I myself wrote this specification and delivered to QA. And actually I delivered it with the orientation session that this is coming next week or next to next week I am going to deliver this and you have to test this. And with the orientation, I told that what this component is about, what it is replacing, why we are doing it, and all those kind of questions. And the functional spec followed after that. So QA were supposed to create their test plans based on functional specs. That almost coincided with the drop to QA. So, and after that, of course, they are used to it. It's not new to them. So they created all these test plans and started testing it, bug fixing started. At this point, there was no design documentation for this component. So somebody outside the engineering said, what is this design? Is it good enough to replace the component? Can we fall back to the old component if this doesn't work? Or release stop shift like issues come, then can we fall back to the old? And then at that time, we created the design document. We introduced the fallback option that, okay, you can shut off this component and fall back to the older one if you see some issues and things like that. These last few items I have put in green and then dark green. These are the steps where the tech writers and documentation team had visibility in. So this, with the functional specs, they started to know about the component. They thought about what would need to go into the help and documentation and release notes and all that has to go with the bug fixing. They generally, our documentation team generally takes inputs from the QA, the bug fixes and all, because they are the first testers, users of the component. So they get some first-hand feedback about this, how the functionality is working. And of course, functional specs and design docs are the main inputs for them. And by that time, actually the release is nearing, so in the very near future, like in 1 month or so. So they create all the documentation, release notes, online help, and send it to review to engineering. We are supposed to review those, give feedback. So this is how we are developing, and this is how the engineering process is. My example was not something that I can give excuse that there was no time or this was not well designed or we could not have included other people in the initial phases. There was no excuse, but my following slide is going to explain that when that becomes inevitable. So the other thing is sometimes we provide feature in patches, big features, so not like some maintenance thing or because if you remember, our customers are like big financial institutions, big banks, or the stock exchanges, or on the other side there are service providers, big wireless service provider, mobile service providers, and they have big pockets. They have a lot of money, and the feature that they want is once in their organization they are sure that they want this feature and our product can give that. They come up with the proposal and money on the table, the important thing. So they want it in 2 weeks or something like that. So most of if I remember, about 5-6 years ago, our product was not very good in service provider domain for the mobile data. And this thing was evolving so fast, and we decided that this is going to be our bread and butter for next few years. So whatever you say, we are going to give you. We are going to give you immediately. In patches, individual patches. So T-Mobile wants something, we'll give you. Verizon wants something, we'll give you in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And as you know, last 5-6 years, the financial situation was not very well. IT spending was not well. So we already had challenges on the revenue side. So we started giving more stress to this route, featuring patches. So the example is like this: the customer asks for some feature in 2 weeks and the money on the table, and we say yes because we have our revenue target every quarter to meet. Of course, the engineering organization takes more time, and the most critical part is we deliver to the customer directly. Development, even our engineering managers visit the customer to actually deploy the patch and see that things are working. Customer tests it in the labs, then in the production environment, and accepts it. That's what they want. If I have to give some good example, it is actual example. Some big service providers like Verizon or AT&T, they wanted ability to search a phone number into their data. One phone number. So they had millions of subscribers. They are talking all over. Data is being collected into distributed server places, and they wanted to search this phone number in all their databases. There was not a single product in the world that can do it at that time. And they came to us because we were monitoring the network. We were not looking into the phone number or collecting or indexing the phone numbers, but we were seeing all that data. And they said, can you give us something, some search like this? Time frame was not 2 weeks, little bit more than that, but we delivered that, and the customer accepted the patch and tested it in the lab and then the production. And that became a hit feature in our next release, which came 1 year after that, actually. So after the customer accepts money, it's our quarter is fulfilled with that, and now that is sitting as a patch. So we make that feature merge into some release, ongoing release if there is enough time, or the next generally available release. So we have about 1,000 customers. Not everybody is interested into the patch that was very critical to one of the customers, but broadly at least 30% people would find it very good. So we merge it into a general release. And the part is the doc team is unaware in all these things. Actually, even QA is not aware of all this. Whenever we merge something into the general release, during the development phase of the release, either it breaks something, or the QA drop, or the ongoing release message or things like that. But we all know that that is going to happen. We have already pocketed $1 million, so we can spend all this breakage and fix it in 1 week or something like that. And then that is released, and all the things that last slide showed, giving all the details about documentation and all the QA team and documentation team, all that happens, and they try to make a good case, actually, to test well and have a very good documentation. So despite all that, what I said was fabulous documentation and online is there at present. Okay, so
Can you ask a question?
yeah.
I'll reverse the question to you. So was documentation in fact even required in this case, because the customer taken it, accepted and used it?
So this was tailor-made feature for one customer, okay, but other customers do not know. Like for example, other customers do not know that something like phone number search is there. The release note might tell you, but there are intricacies about it's not generally available. Things are, you need to configure things, or you need to also the level 1 users that we say in IT, who are also our users, product users. They are not very technically expert in the product itself or in the network domain itself. Just imagine a network guy who attends any queries from a company, level 1 support that we say. So all those are big chunk of users, and they need online help and documentation, techniques, everything. So this is one feature, support documentation, that is very critical. And so the features are merged into the release, and the release has happened, people have got the release, and the escalation starts coming. Features are not working, or people have messed some things, configurations are not working, or there could be actual genuine bugs. And the support has to take all that fire. So we have a very strong support organization, about more than 100 people just supporting in levels the customers all over the world. So what they do is, they are also knowledgeable in our products. They have been working for many years on the product. Actually, in our team, the support team is so strong that we go to them to know about the product, about some other areas that we are not working on. So that is the expertise that support team has. So what they do is, if that online documentation or whatever the document that we deliver to the customers, if sometimes they feel it's not helping us or them actually. So what they have come up with, they have created their own documentation. So the examples are like answer console and some tech notes. So answer console is like actually the person who is taking the call and raising a ticket. He has something like a Google-like search API and actual the UI. So they have themselves created. So whatever the customer tells, he tries to search on that, and of course there is history for that kind of problem, and some escalations show up, and he can figure out what we did last time and all that. So that is helping their team, their entry-level team, support team. And the senior people have created the tech notes and the underlying database. This is actually a good documentation because these are the reasons. So they are actually solving the people's problems. Suppose if there is it's not a bug, it's a configuration problem, or it's interpretation problem, or just customers needed to educate, they all do it, and they do it with their own database or documentation, which is content rich because they have actually solved the problems. The tickets are getting closed by their education imparted on the customers and things like that. And it is practical because they have worked on the actual problem and they have tried it on multiple customers. So these are the very important things of the documentation, but the only thing is that they use it for themselves. This is not shared with customers. Of course it is shared, but case by case basis. how much documentation team contributes. Actually, I'm not aware of it, but I don't know how if documentation team is involved in creating all this. Probably not. So these are the kind of engineering side things that I wanted to share. And of course, it's not the rosy picture for the engineering side. Okay. So this is the last thing. Some of our complaints. So we also face with the issues. So engineering organization is big. There are layers in the engineering, starting from platform hardware, where people create or modify the Linux kernel, and we use the Dell's hardware boxes. Platform team. After that, there is a team that actually works on the Linux hardware, actual network monitoring. Then there is a Java server that I work for, which takes all the data from the platform. So we have this challenge of knowledge sharing in our team also. We are working on, like, if we imagine like 4-5 layers software development cycle, we are at the 3rd layer or something, just below UI. UI people are the worst hit in the knowledge sharing team in our organization, and we are the next, because some solutions are provided at the hardware layer or monitoring level, and the data is coming to us, which is shown in UI, but we don't know. We don't know the business domain knowledge or why this is being done. And we always complain about this, that there is not knowledge. And I gave just example of phone number, sir. We don't know how the phone number or how the mobile data is being monitored and how they extract now. Of course, nobody is stopping us from going to internet and looking at it, but that's the standards and the roll-ups in the different networks and all that is so vast that we have to spend our time and get training ourselves or something. But that could have been very easy if we had the other teams shared knowledge with us, but that is not happening. So we complain about that. Not connected to revenue directly, because ours is a Java server which looks at the vantage points of networks of hundreds of devices. And the actual revenue in our company comes from selling the hardware, just like Cisco or something. So our sales or our executives are interested into selling the hardware. And many times in the negotiation or big deals, our software is sold for free. So we are not connected directly. I cannot tell, or our VP cannot tell that this component will give 50 millions in next quarter also. They are selling it for free. So even we are not connected to revenue directly. Then there is no visibility in the future, short term, long term. Long term visibility, the executives try to impart the direction, but the economic situation is such that they say that we will make left and right turns. This is where we want to go, but it won't be a straight path, because quarterly revenues is the first thing that we are going to look into. So we don't get any visibility. We don't know next year what we will be working on. The process, of course, I just explained that what process we follow, but the PRDs coming from product management or sales people, if they reached us faster or before the decisions, that could have been better. But if we had well-led processes at that level, that would have been helped us. That is not there. So we are not following good processes. The next people are not getting it. It's all following the same thing. Respect, I think I can't complain much about it, because we are the spoiled lot in the company, the engineering team. So I think lot of product managers do not bother to talk anybody, then they know who is going to work on it in the engineering organization. And that way the respect is all there, but there is some variation of respect, what teams are respected and what not and all. So it's not all that we are all engineering is respected so well. So it looks familiar, right? The complaints. So actually there is no good solution to address those. Nothing works perfectly. So only thing we can do is get over it. We can't help this. I think these complaints are like even the QA or documentation team had for us, but we also have this same kind of issue. So I think this is the first part of my presentation talk. So next is I have some experience with interacting with the documentation team, and I'm going to share some experiences about it, and of course some suggestions from my side. So do you have any questions till this?
Yeah. This is the part where.
So basically what I want to know is your support is taking care of documentation. So why the company is not thinking of involving writers as such, because support is getting overloaded. Looks like they have to work on docs.
Yeah, but yeah. Yes.
Can you repeat the question for the recording?
Yeah, so the question is why the company is not investing more into the documentation that support creates, and because that could have been better documentation. The problem is actually the support documentation is for support. That they only share it with the customers on the particular issues or cases, and actually it is not even valued as much as I am actually telling them, because I have seen the value in it. It's not valued much, but that the content-rich, tried and tested documentation, which actually support or even managers throw to the customers as, okay, do this, we know this is going to solve your problem. But there is not enough investment, and the support documentation or the support leadership's way to look at it is this: we have created for ourselves more than the customers.
Yeah, I had a question around this. But then won't that keep increasing your tech support costs? If you had exposed that information to customers, maybe you'll be reducing your tech support costs because they go through it, solve their own problems, and get out of it.
Yes. So so they thought about it, and so customers have also different kind of service level agreements, and some platinum customers can directly dive into the answer console and things like that. So that we are because that was inevitable, because otherwise the flood of calls which actually we are solving by the support documentation only. If we share that is being taken care of. So only for few customers, not everybody gets it. I don't know about the business decisions around it.
Ajit,
Yep.
so when you have your patch releases, when you have feature updates, for example, and then said, the QE isn't aware of it, and the writers of course aren't, because they're way down the line. So what efforts do you take then, to convince so that the documentation is in line with your upgrades?
Yeah, so that happens when we merge the feature or patch into the general release that is going on. Okay, at that time the documentation and functional specs are written and orientation. So we take the orientation. Okay, this feature is coming. We are going to deliver into this general release. Okay, and so at that time the QA and documentation team, and actually anybody in the company can attend that orientation and training kind of session. And then of course whenever they start working, like the tech writers then directly deal with the teams that are working on. So there is more communication and sharing of whatever they need at that way. So but it is in the ongoing release.
Yeah, continuation to the patch question. So when you say a customer is paying almost 1 million, so and they test it themselves. So what is the supporting role you provide in terms of, because QA effect will be testing and documentation in the later stage, but in the initial stage, what is the process then? How do you?
Yes, so generally this is done for big customers who are paying that kind of amount. So actually we have a very large installation at customer sites, and we have resident engineers there at their site working on it. So they already have our own employees sitting in their customer premises have their own lab environment, which mimics kind of the customer's side. And what we do is we patch and we create a patch and test in the customer's lab environment. That is done by us, our customers there. So, but you can imagine the kind of quality control and standard code quality of all that in that. But customer is fine with it because they want the features so badly. So we say that okay, this will come 9 months down the line at generally available release, which they are okay. Yes, please.
Have you ever thought of involving tech writers in proposal writing?
So tech writers involved at the proposal writing. So this formally has not happened, but I know some product managers who come with some Word documents and some Excel spreadsheets from the customers, and they want to make a very good product requirement document. They seek the help of the tech writers, but that's not very formal procedure because the responsibility is with the product managers who is proposing the feature. So they themselves are such a good documenters that the proposals that come to us are very well documented, and we sometimes wonder why do you need a functional specification with such kind of document. Yeah.
For the knowledge sharing part, to help the communication between the developers and the team, would it help if the tech writers present and create software architecture documents or design documents so that you have a kind of repository, you can refer to it whenever you need it, and you don't need to spend time explaining the same thing to somebody else. So can tech writers play a part in this?
Yes. So there are two parts. One is creating the formal documents and taking help of the tech writers there at that time. So that would be really great idea, but the problem with that is the product management is most of the times work very closely with the customers, and that happens for a very short period of time, like in less than 2 weeks or 3 weeks or kind of time, and they quickly beat and try to figure out what customer wants, quickly put it down in a document, gets the customer sign up for that, and rush back to engineering because we have 3 weeks, next 3 weeks to deliver. So at that time, actually, not even the major part of engineering also involved because they don't want to spend time. the 2 weeks for $1 million, so they even don't bother to share with the whole engineering. So less people is less time wasted. That's what they try at that time. Next, about sharing, I think we share the documentation with whole organization, the share portal and all those things. That happens, but these documents created mostly for engineering, and we are supposed to create the documents and share with the whole organization. But all the time constraints and all things, the processes are supposed to be, but they are bent.
Yeah, I have a comment on that. The part that I'm trying to emphasize is instead of the developers preparing those documents, I know they are time consuming. Can the tech writers take that? Would that be
Yeah, so I have one, that has happened sometimes, so I have one experience of that situation. I'll just try to explain. So when that happens, the tech writers get involved into the design, and the result is really very good, and we wish that happens. So that was in the when we were following the Scrum and Agile methodology. So I'm going to go to that. Okay. So that is the next part of this, which takeaways.
Just want to add to your earlier thing. Why services people, when they have their own solution side, okay, do not contribute to the documentation. One of the main reason for that thing is, that's what I found is, what are the intricacies they found and what are the solutions they develop. It's directly related to the dollar earnings. Most of the times.
Yeah. Yes. So that is one of the point that I'm going to make in the next section of it. So let's go over it. So this is like we all know the competence. The thing is that we the businesses are changing, the new technology is taking on so fast that the yesterday's poster boys companies are going bust and new companies are coming just because the technology is changing so fast. And even we experienced this when 5-6 years ago we had very limited set of solutions for one major market segment that was growing like 200-300% over a year, which is the service provider market. And we had to change ourselves. We had to understand what that is, that business and all that. So that happened like in 2-3 years of time. So of course the engineering took that challenge to change new technologies, grasp the ability, knowledge, but that applies to everybody. Everybody has to do this. The product managers, level 3 support, as I already said, they have very good documentation abilities also. And we are working actually with the documents and requirements, things that they create. So, and as I was talking to her, that because of the time constraints, we are not actually involving the right people which should be doing this, which are the tech writers. But the competence is there, and figuring out how to learn or how to grasp that is the more bigger challenge, even that we thought we faced. Okay, so the best part to get the knowledge and all the capabilities is get near to the business. So many a times the release theme that we say is not actually a release theme because 4 or 5 features which we already earned money for are going into that release. So somebody who is working on release is actually not getting the true picture because the engineering is so relaxed in that release because they have already delivered it, all of that release. And so this was one of the shortcomings that our documentation team had, I think, because they are aligned with the release. And we know that is already delivered. So we are not serious enough about the release. Whereas in all seriousness and honesty, the tech writers are doing all the documentation and all things. But to solve the problem is get near to the business. So even we have seen the issues that come with directly delivering back to the customer, the quality and all of that. So we are trying to address that. We should have a maintenance release instead of patches, which this gives some process, some QA exposure, and at least the whole company knows about it. But there is no alternative to going near to the business. And Scrum helped that. Okay, so these are, I don't know how many are aware of these pigs and chickens roles in the Scrum. So, anybody or
Aware or not aware?
are you aware of this? No. I'll spend two minutes on that.
2 minutes, please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, so in the Scrum team is like feature based. So one feature from top to bottom, the team is formed from across the teams and components. And the pigs and chickens are like, pigs are the people who are committed to the feature. Committed. Like the programmers who are working on it. And chickens are the people who are involved in it. They are not committed, they are involved in it. Like the QA people who are testing it or whatever. If you think you are not committed to the delivery, then you are the chickens. And nobody says that I am the chicken. So everybody thinks they are the pigs. But the pigs recognize who are the pigs and who are chickens. So pigs will always take the other pigs seriously, not the chickens. Okay? And the pigs in the Scrum team must feel that you are a pig. You are committed to the delivery. That requires, of course, soft skills. So one good example is this. We followed the Scrum and Agile methodology for about 2 years or something. And we had top to bottom feature team. And there was only one documentation person involved in that. Only one person, big feature. But she was a senior person working with our product for a long time. And the Scrum thing is like we have to give something every week or every 2 weeks to QA to test, and we have to say this is done. This part of the feature is done. And so what that means is for that part of the feature, all the documentation should be done by those 2 weeks. So she was after us, and the Scrum standing meeting that they call every morning for 5 minutes or 10 minutes used to come together, and she was after everybody that I want information on this. So I was the Scrum Master, okay, for that. And the experience is that I asked the team of developers to create whatever small documentation that you think you should be contributing and send it to her, the documentation lady. And what happened is she reviewed the documentation, that small chunks coming from each developer, and for every stand-up meeting has to happen in like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Just raise the issues only, don't discuss anything. But she said that maybe in a weekly, every Monday we get like half an hour for that stand-up meeting to judge the progress. So at that time she said she needs some committed, dedicated time to discuss all this. And what she did was, the team so appreciated it because she talked to individual and said, this is your documentation, but I will put it in this way. And just not that, she explained why there is some things that creep into documentation, gender bias, racial bias, things like that. We are not aware of all those things, and she took the pain to explain why we write like this, why we should put in these words and all those things. So actually her knowledge for the language and documentation, she imparted on the whole team. And everybody thought that they are learning something from that. So, of course, that worked very well in the Scrum, worked very well for the future and the team members also. Documentation and even the development team. So people were getting better in the communication skills. You might have seen communication skills. I have seen like programmers in my team with 10 years of experience. They lack the communication skills. How you should reply to some things, or how you should explain or talk things. But that one person tried to help and improve that in the Scrum team, just because she was involved and people felt she is committed to deliver that. So that is about getting near to the business. The Scrum team, I would say, had mixed success in our organization, but some people are following it. Then the relations, as all of you know, positive attitude and empathy. Actually, the most important part is about understanding the pain and pressure on the engineering side. In this case, people are under tremendous pressure to deliver, and actually you have to just understand, and you can help in that. So in the Scrum team, everybody, it's like, I don't know if Indian cricket team's coach Ajit Bhat, what he imparted in our teams as a coach, he said everybody should be expert in two areas. If you are a bowler, figure out can you bat well or field well, or things like that. At least 2 areas. So what this imparted is what help documentation person can do when there is so much pressure to deliver things on things. People are developing and giving it to QA to test. But our documentation took the challenge. They learned all this configuration and testing, and they were as good as some QA person in testing all that. And so they did that extra kind of thing. So almost doing the QA members' job within the team. That helped because QA people were even more knowledgeable. They helped in the engineering work. So it's about understanding this pressure and some like personal communication things, like I don't know, some people have tried this. I have heard people going to golf and doing this, but that's not in the engineering and our own experience. Things like whatever it takes to get a well-gelled team. That when I was a Scrum Master, I just wanted this a well-gelled team. Basically, whatever it takes to do it, but basically having the positive attitude and understanding the pressure situation, that's what had helped in our team. So give and take that I already said. So the thing that worked for us, the Scrum, the documentation member of the Scrum helping the engineering, because we saw that it's in interest of our individual goal, that they are imparting the language and communication skill things, and we were feeling that this is in our interest. In project related work, they shared the work, tested things, they shared the work that QA was doing, and in turn that helped the team. So that's what you can do for me, and if you cover me, I'll reciprocate. So this is always there in any team. It's not just, but if you are in a team, you should be covering each other. Then you will get something in the reciprocal. So this is the short give and take thing. And it's about money, shorter release cycles, time pressures, and though the processes we want it, but they are bent, they are retrofit. Things are done just for the processes for sometimes. Because our VP executive says that without PRD I will not listen to any presentation, any requirement. That's why PRDs are created. But that's how the processes are bent. But we can't help, because delivering in 3 weeks and getting 1 million from the table was the most important thing. So engineering can't help sometimes. So I think this is it.